Hello and welcome to Gnomon for another industry event live at the Dell stage. Thank you all so much for joining us here live, and thank you at home for joining us wherever you are, on your phone or on your tablet, wherever you may be. If you're looking for closed captionings, please head over to our Facebook or our YouTube page. We'll be able to help you out there. And of course, like always, we love to thank our sponsors, Dell and NVIDIA. Without them, we wouldn't be able to provide you with amazing content as you're about to see right now. And speaking of amazing content, if you like what you see, like, share, tell your friends, tell your grandma, whoever you got to tell, just let them know about all the cool stuff that we're doing here at Gnomon. So, tonight, we're excited to welcome Clint G, Reagan, Patrice, Avery, and Stuart, Allan, who will be sharing a behind-the-scenes look at Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The panel will feature never-before-seen Previs footage, a breakdown of key sequences, and in-depth discussion about the challenges of visual storytelling in a legendary franchise, and legendary it is. Be sure to stick around at the end of the presentation because we'll be having a Q&A. We've already discussed in here about how we'll be handling it, but if you're at home, there will be a link that's in the chat. You can go ahead and click on that link and submit your question there, and we'll get to that at the near the end of our program. So, without further ado, please help me welcome the visualization team behind Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Does that mean it's our turn? Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. It's really good to have everybody here. We are joined with the leaders of Proof, and we'll tell you a little about that relationship here in a minute, but we want to show you what Proof does and what they do in the Hollywood business making movies. So to get started, we're just going to introduce ourselves so that you know where we came from. We all started, before we do that, who here is a student of Gnomon? 2?
No.
No, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's one back
6.
there.
Okay, and the rest, is it industry professionals? Ooh, wow, okay. Great. I'm talking now. Uh-oh, I'm going to get fact-checked. Okay. And just fans. Okay, that's great too, because I think we're all fans if we're in this room. Wanted to make sure we knew who we were talking to. Stuart?
Can I ask a question? Can you hear me? Who also worked on this movie with us in the audience? Hands?
Wait, who's that? Louis! Hey, Louis!
Yeah.
How are you? He modeled all of our India stuff.
It's a reunion. I'm glad.
That's awesome.
I'm glad.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Louis. We'll talk afterwards. So, who are we, and where did we come from? Do you want to start? Or
Sure. I started in college. I was working for a small animation studio called Creative Capers. I ended up staying there for 13 years doing all kinds of fun stuff, from toy design stuff on the producer side. Toy design, a lot of video game stuff for Disney and Interactive at that time. And that was fun. And then I went to DreamWorks, and I was there from Sinbad to Kung Fu Panda, the first Kung Fu Panda. And then I went up to Toronto to help set up an animation studio there for a couple of years, and then came back and worked at Halon for about 11 years, and that's where Clint and I have a long history with the director of this movie. And then went to Proof over 6 years ago now, so and that's where I got to work with Stuart and all the other fun gang over there. So yeah, I started, just got something out of the college paper with the job and didn't even know this kind of world existed, and I've had a lot of fun years making movies and cartoons and playing with toys, so that's it.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Patrice.
My name's Stuart Allan. I went to school for animation. I don't know, who here likes cartoons? I also like cartoons, so we're friends already. My first experience was right out of school working on Monster House and animated movies like The Simpsons movie, Astro Boy. And at some point, I found my way to Proof and Previs, which is kind of cartoony, but also in the VFX realm, a little bit more the live action film realm. And somewhere in between car chases and lasers and giant reptiles and Homer Simpson, that's where I live. Yeah, and I lived with Proof for quite a while. And how about you, Clint?
So I love my story getting into the business, but I don't want to bore you with the whole thing. But I honestly, I've loved animation, and I wanted to get into animation, wanted to be an animator. I dropped out of college and moved to LA after deciding, you know what, I don't want to keep going like this. And got a job at Disney Feature Animation as a production assistant. And so that's over here. My first credit was on Emperor's New Groove, back when I was 5 years old. And I fell in love and I thought, I'm going to be an animator. I'm already at Disney. I was figure drawing on the lunches. I was sneaking into the artists' booths and doing in-betweens for them. This is all paper, hand-drawn animation. And I wasn't really sneaking. They were letting me. But that means they got to hang out at the comic book shop for an extra hour because I was doing 2 or 3 of their in-betweens. And I was so set and so excited. But then Disney said, yeah, we're not doing 2D anymore. And after digging in my heels for a little bit and deciding, no, I'm staying. I'm already at Disney Feature Animation. I'm sticking it out. I can handle this. When Glenn Keane and some of the people I rode trains with and got to know were scared. Not Glenn Keane, he wasn't scared, but a lot of others were scared. But these legends, these people that I had followed for a long time, that I just admired so much, and they were nervous for what they were going to do to take care of their large families, and I was just starting mine, and I thought, okay, I've got to learn this CG thing. I got to go figure out what it's all about. Which landed me here at Gnomon. Yes. And so I dove into 3D animation after leaving Disney And while I was taking a course here at Gnomon, here meaning the other one, the one with the rickety, awesome catwalks, I was introduced to Previs. Had no idea what it was. I wanted to be an animator, but boy, oh boy, did that change my course. Being in that Previs class, I could tie the connections. Everything came together because I was in that class. I learned Previs. My first job was because the guy I was being interviewed by was jealous that I had taken the class of his friend. And so he's like, okay, I got to talk. If you're talking to so-and-so, I need to get you before he does. And I ended up able to go on a job in Australia for the Ghost Rider movie from Marvel Comics. And sight unseen, never done Previs before, they just flew me out. And I landed in Australia and they said, oh, you know how to do Previs? And I said, yeah, I turned in my assignments last week. Okay. And that got my start. And I've been in Previs ever since, and I've been so fortunate to meet a ton of amazing people, which we'll talk about some of those tonight, and to really contribute to the industry. Now, one last thing about my origin story. There was no radioactive goop, but this poster is not this movie. But when I was in high school, this was on my wall at my house. And I remember the day so well, because I went and saw Indiana Jones. It was the third time I was seeing it. I was in the back row and I was paying to bring somebody else I was working at the movie theater, but then I brought my family and then brought my friends. And I remember sitting in the back row thinking, at the crawl, I said, that is what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do with my life. My name will be up there one way or the other. And there was a lot of years between that happening. This feels like an outro, but that's okay. There was a lot of times before that happened, but for every one of you that are students, even though there wasn't as many of you that raised your hand, I've been in that spot where I've sat there and thought, I don't know if I can do this. I can't keep up with the people around me. And yet, in spite of feeling that and having a really lousy demo reel, I've been able to do amazing things. And I know that everybody else that wants to and sticks to it totally can. If I can, I'm not going to show you my demo reel, because then it would really boost your confidence. But you can, and that's what I want. I'm excited to share that and share that. That's my origin story. So, let's see. So now I feel glued. I don't like to sit still. So James Mangold, 2000 and something, 2000 and something. Patrice was just new at Alun Entertainment, where I had my first interview. And she put me on a job called Night and Day. Anybody heard of Night and Day? Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. And so I ended up on that show and met James Mangold for the first time. And man, oh man, was that a Hollywood experience. He is big and larger than life. And the stories I could tell are fascinating. But
Not a fan of Previs.
This is being recorded.
At the time.
No, he was an amazing filmmaker. And the chance to be working with him, I'll talk more about it as we go. But things went well, and then I worked on the next movie he did. And then I worked on the next movie he did. And by then, he had grown to trust me and understand where I'm coming from and be patient with my energy. And I became part of his group, his brain trust of filmmakers. He always has the same editor, the same Previs guy, there's like two production designers, always works with him over and over again. The people he trusts to make the movie and have fun doing it. And it's been an amazing ride. And so that's kind of how we got connected to Indy Jones, is because of that history. Indy Jones was my 5th movie with Jim, and it's been great. Let's see what's next. Anything else?
But you were hired on production side, the first time as a production side supervisor for this one, as opposed to through a
That's
vendor.
true. So usually normally I was at a pre-visualization house. I was at Alun Entertainment for 15 years. Then I moved over to Imagineering, Walt Disney Imagineering for 2 years until that crazy thing happened to all of us and everybody got let go from all sorts of jobs when COVID hit. And then after COVID, I got called Let's see, is that what slide is? Nope,
Starting
nope.
the project, is that the next one?
Nope, doesn't work. Where?
Do you want me to do it?
Okay, hit the space bar. There we go. So I got laid off from WDI, and fortunately, right when Imagineering got the call, I got the call and they said, oh, we're so sorry, but we're cutting costs. I got a call like 2 weeks later from Jim Mangold, and he said, hey, are you busy? I said, no, let's do this. And I couldn't believe it when he told me we were going to do Indy Jones. Kathy Siegel was the VFX producer. We had worked with her on Ford versus Ferrari, the project just prior. And so it wasn't a negotiation there. It was just, let's get going. Let's figure this out. I interviewed with the ILM folks, the head of ILM, Rob Bredow, and Janet Llewellyn.
Rob Legato.
And they run ILM, and they wanted to know, who's this kid that Jim is insisting is on this project of Indiana Jones? You know, this is a precious thing. We got to be careful. And so I interviewed with them, and after we were able to talk, and I was able to tell them that, yes, I had actually worked with Steven on Crystal Skull also, which in 2007, I had worked on that one and done Previs there. They said, okay, you're already part of the family, let's do this, let's go. And then you fill in the rest.
Well, you started your own team first, right?
Okay, is that where we're at? Okay.
You want me to hit?
Yeah, I can't, this isn't working, so.
Well, this is jumping ahead a little bit. Well, so Clint had started a team with a video game company,
Yes, that's right.
Tangent, doing it in Unreal. And so...
Yeah, so Unreal we'd been doing Unreal for Previs for, at Halon we started in 2014, 15.
Yeah.
And so we'd been doing Previs in Unreal for quite some time, but we'd never animated and built our entire scenes in Unreal. That hadn't been done. And I decided, let's try it. And so we did. And I thought, well, let's try hiring a video game company. And so we hired some video game professionals, thinking, well, they're going to have the wherewithal to help us make it really powerful. What we learned in those early days of working out of our bedrooms for COVID is it's not about what buttons you know how to push. It's about knowing why and where you put the camera, knowing how and when to move the body, knowing the timing. The tools and the tech is important, it's vital, but it isn't the end all. And so the Unreal tools at that point were definitely just not ready. We weren't ready for them, they weren't ready for us, and it went too slowly. So we quickly, after a couple months of realizing, yeah, this isn't gonna work, we pivoted to the traditional, or what had become the traditional workflow of Maya is where you build the scenes and then you export it into Unreal and render in Unreal. I got it?
You're great. So from there, basically Kathy, who we'd worked with on Ford vs. Ferrari, reached out. Clint obviously had already been talking to me too about bringing the project to proof so that we can kind of help build a team around Clint, bringing some of the core people that he had already with him at the other company, kind of bring them over as much as we could. So we brought that group over, we added some more folks, and then just dove in. So that was one of those like Christmas, let's do a bid and get a team going, beginning of January things. So let's
January
do this.
21.
Yep. So yeah, it was an exciting venture to figure out because there was the sequences. You'll see a very big sequence that was already in Unreal and done. So just integrating everything and getting kind of up to snuff, I think was really good for proof in that we had been in the Unreal space on a lot of different projects, and our London studio had a lot of projects in Unreal, but every show kind of had its own little island of Unreal workflow, and I think this project showed us we really needed to kind of get that all sorted out. So I think after this, now we have a great pipeline going, and it really answered some questions for us. So it was a really great project for the studio for sure.
Now, Patrice,
Stuart?
Clint, let's back up a little bit. Proof came on, and we were able to scale up to what the production needed because of our experience in pre-visualization. That's how you say it, right?
Or Viz.
And most everyone here is an industry professional. I'm sure they are well aware of pre-visualization. But what is pre-visualization? Clint?
You want me to answer? So, pre-visualization, for those that don't know, or need a little reminder, the main goals of Previs, although there are many, and many positive results that come from prevising a movie, whether it's live action or animated or a ride or whatever it is, prevising is to solidify the filmmaker's vision, or the ride maker, whoever is leading the creative. It's to solidify their vision both for themselves. Now, filmmakers, I put that deliberately. It's not just about the director, because the production designer, their input is vital. The costumes, the stunts, everybody that has a creative say is one of the filmmakers, and they all put their heart and soul into what they're doing. And everybody needs to see that together to keep everything from spinning out of control, having confusion and anger and frustration in an already challenging process. So it gets everybody's ideas on a screen that everybody can look at and share. The next is then, once that vision is realized, do you want me to do the next one, or do you want to do the next one?
Where are we?
We're on number 2.
Oh, bringing all the crew into the same vision?
Yeah.
That's what you said. There's so many moving parts. The visual representation, even at the early abstract phases of a stunt, of a sequence, is something that people can have a conversation about and make creative decisions. And part of those creative decisions are that you're going to have new ideas, and you're going to go off in all kinds of different directions based on what the stunt team or the person who's going to build the camera rig or onto the car or anything like that has to say about it, based on their expertise, their own filmmaking experience. So it's a visual conversation piece that by definition just has to continually change and adapt all the way through the production process. Because we say pre-visualization, I don't say it very well, but it happens, from the moment that you've got a script all the way through story development until you're on stage with the film crew, working different problems out, past the point where all of the plates are shot, where the editor and the director are taking a look at what came out of all the money they spent and how they might put this story together in an appealing way, changing things, adding things. And so it's just a team, it's a small team within a large team that's kind of giving visual decision-making a chance all the way through.
Yeah. So that kind of hits both of these other points. It brings all the crew into the same vision. That's what Stuart just illustrated. And it gives a clear visual roadmap of how to create shots. Everybody can look at it and say, how are we going to do this? And everybody can see the goal. It won't be stuck in their head, different than his head and different than her head, which you all know, it's a little different in all of our heads. But once you can see it, we're all marching and moving towards the same goal. So that is the main goals of Previs. There's a ton of benefits, and we're going to skate past those and talk about, get into some pictures and movies. So we did these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't math.
6.
6 sequences in the movie. The World War II France, which included motorcycles and castles and jumping onto trains and jumping off of trains, and that was, I think, a 20-minute piece. So we were involved with that. Oh, it says castles, trains, and bikes. Look at that. That was nice of me. We did New York, where we were back in 1969, so that's why I wore my 60s color shirt. when the moon landing and horses in the streets and subways. We did Tuk Tuk, which we're going to spend a little time with Tuk Tuk because we spent so much time on it in that movie. We're going to make you endure it with us. And Wreck Dive was going down under the water. I'm not even going to ask who's seen it because I don't want to be disappointed. So we did Wreck Dive and skeletons and eels, and then we did an airport in the storm, jumping onto the airplane, and then we did ancient Syracuse, and they were great scenes. So let's roll.
We're going to be going through all those fun things.
Let's talk while we watch. So this is our Previs compilation of a lot of the stuff. Oh, those were Aaron's shots. Aaron, hey.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I was supposed to say this sooner. I probably was, but Miko, say hi, Miko. Miko, he is a Gnomon grad, and I hired him because at the very beginning, he was one of the first people I hired and the last people that got let go at the end of the project because he was on the list here at Gnomon, and I contacted Gnomon and I said, you got any hot shots? And they said, well, there's this Miko guy. And I said, okay, bring it on. And that is how Miko got on the job. And he worked for me for 2 years and did amazing. And was always there to do amazing stuff. And a lot of this stuff is his work. So thank you, Miko.
This is a Previs reel, the overall Previs reel.
Yes, this is the overall Previs?
Now, Clint,
Yeah.
some people might look at this and say, this does not look like Unreal. This looks different than what comes out of Maya. What's that all
This
about?
doesn't look unreal. So is this a dig on my quality?
What's going on here with the visual style, Clint?
So, toon shading. You'll notice it's toon shaded. This is all done in Unreal. We had Anna at Proof, who designed some amazing textures for us. We're going to show that in just a second. But yeah, let's move forward. Let's go to it. Oh, here's the, should we skip this part? Well, there's our team. Hey,
Yay.
there's Aaron. There's Miko. There's Nico. There's a whole bunch of them. Okay.
Craig.
Hey, go Craig. Okay. We were going to talk about how we worked at COVID. I'll sum it up in 2 sentences because I think we want to get to pictures. It was a challenging time. Everybody's been through it. Everybody has a story. The way I dealt with that story was I had a room and I told everybody that I hired, I said, Miko, if you want to come onto this team, you're going to be in the room, Google Meet, for 8 hours a day. Sorry, that's the way we were going to run this team. You were in the room all day long. The trade-off was I had my editing screen open all day long. Every time I cut in a shot, you could always see what I was doing, even though we were all scattered across the country trying to figure out how to live and survive. But it created an amazing camaraderie, and maybe we'll refer to it as we go, but I don't want to dig too deep on that.
But there was lots of different rooms all named after Indiana
Yeah, we had
Jones.
the Well of the Souls, we had the Sankara Stones room, we had the Crystal Skull. There was a cool name for it. It was the Room of the Crystal Skull. And that's like, which room were you in? Were you in the Sankara Stones?
I think it was called Stuart's room.
No, it was Indy Jones. Okay, anyways, we're going to go back to this. So, when we changed over from Unreal only to Maya Unreal, one of the things we had done is had these renders. Go ahead and play it. So check this out. This is what came directly out of Unreal. Miko probably did these shots. Straight out of Unreal, we did some editing Unreal, but as I said earlier, it didn't quite work as fast as we wanted. Still pretty cool, but what we found is the director was very frustrated with this because he felt like it looked like this. Go to the next one.
Next one?
Again, there, this one.
Our equipment is ahead of its time.
So, and he's saying something really funny. He says, our tools are the sophistication of the era, or something like that. He kept, the director, Jim, he would come in and he'd say, what is this? This looks like Puppetoons. What is this? Thunderbirds Are Go? This isn't Indy Jones. And he couldn't look past the robots, the zombies, the puppet heads. And so we decided to go back to something we had tried on Ford versus Ferrari, which was toon shading in Unreal. We said, you know what? Whatever's working, go with what works. That's something that he has said. Anytime we're looking at a sequence and things aren't working, we'll go with what works. So we looked at Gabe Henderson's storyboards, which you're seeing here. I'm not in the way, am I? And we wanted to try to capture that look. Go ahead and go to the next one.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. So this is a quote from Jim. My theory is, if you have, actually, hold on. My theory is, if you have one part that's working, then work on that and refine what is, and learn from what is working. So that is guidance on how to design your shots. How to, I don't know, this sequence is just, it's lame, it's not working, but this is cool. Okay, well, embrace the cool and spread it out. Focus on what is cool and expand it. So that's what we did. And we started testing tune shading to see, how close we could get. And this is just some of the iterations that Anna and Mike Solorzano, who was our Unreal tech guy, helped us find as we got approval from Jim, and he's like, yeah, I can buy this. And he liked it. The one thing that I've learned in this process is if you get to those really hot shot looking renders too soon, it does look like Puppetoons. And what you're doing is you're stepping on somebody else's job in that case. Because our job in Previs is not to make it beautiful. It's to give the bones for beautiful. It's to give the camera angles, the ideas, the tightness of ideas, the pacing, the blocking intelligently thought through of using the space well. That's what we're giving it. Now, it has to be good enough and pretty enough that we don't all just say, oh, Puppetoons, ugh, turn it off. And so when we're too high res, Jim would come in and he would think it's time to review visual effects. And it's like, okay, well, this sucks. This is horrible. What is this? And suddenly, every review, my movie is drowning. My movie is horrible. Well, no. We just have put too much polish on something that shouldn't be polished yet. The tune shading does an amazing job of earning everybody's forgiveness while still showing you spatial relationships, pacing, animation. You don't get the stiff faces because you don't expect it from a tune shaded. And so I love it, and I kind of want to do that on everything I do from now on. So anything else to add, Stuart? Or Proof has done tune shading for a while, right?
Well, I think different directors like different things. So I think Wrinkle in Time, you can see in the original reel that we played, there was a few that Captain America, Wrinkle in Time, that all used that kind of tune shading because they wanted to kind of still feel like they were in the storyboard world, not making their movie. So we were able to, on this project, we had it set for Maya, we were able to redo it and get it worked out in Unreal, so that was cool.
Yeah, a little abstraction, just to be able to take a step back and judge things as moving pieces that can be rearranged can be valuable.
I think it does well for respecting all the other departments too. Nobody feels like, oh, I could have done better than that, because we're not in their space. It's just, oh, no, this is helpful. And then they get excited about what they can add to it, which is what they're there for. Everybody's there to add their piece to it. And so I've loved working in the tune shading because of that safety that everybody gets from it. Plus, I came from 2D animation originally. That's what I love. I love the NPR rendering. I geek out about it. So, but we'll move on. Plunder Train, Bike Crash of Doom.
Is this a real?
So this is interesting. So while we're making the movie, there's a lot of changes that happen. And one thing that, this portion here, how to get on the train, was an interesting challenge. And while I can't show you the various things that happened before this scene, oh, that's Aaron's shot. Hey, Aaron. One of the things we tried was we were going to have the motorcycle hit a tree, and the Nazi was going to get smashed into the tree, which did happen, and then the sidecar was going to go ramping up this barn. So Indy, I was going to say Stuart. Stuart turned the bike. Indy turned the bike a little bit so that it would veer the bike just enough to wipe out the Nazi, and then his sidecar went skidding like a stone across the water up this barn that was burning and launch itself into the train and crash onto the train. And could you play it? Just hit play again. Don't hit space. Hit the
play again.
The play button. There we go. And launch itself onto the train. we did that over and over again, and it never read well, and when it finally did, maybe, it was just goofy. It was too goofy, and we were not wanting goofy. We wanted to be grounded. It's still Indy Jones, and so there's still playfulness, and we wanted to definitely get that. So we ended up here, something more realistic that you and I might try to do. And that's what Jim is always about. He's like, I want this to be something you would try to do, and maybe succeed, and actually portray it the way you might succeed in it. Not a perfect landing and a Tom Cruise landing, but earthy and gritty and a little bit real and rough. And embarrassing maybe even. And so we did this version where he's trying to get the train, but instead of spending all that time trying to grab the train, we decided, you know what if we just cut away? And now we go to this guy's perspective. This was kind of my brainchild, and Aaron pulled it off amazingly. And we're like, wait, where's the guy? And we thought it would be a great fun moment. And Jim, he's like, come on, Clint, that's too silly. You're always so silly. And but he kept it, and so I think it's in the film. So that was fun.
Next.
One of the things that's really cool about working with Jim Mangold is he teaches and he guides the whole time while we're working. Hey, Aaron, Miko, could you come here? And this is what I love about working with James Mangold. He is a teacher, and he doesn't just say, hey, I want this shot to be raised up a little bit here, and that's what I want. Just give me what I want.
Yay!
Miko, Aaron! Stand in front of the blue line. Okay, there you go. All right, so this is Indiana Jones, and he is in the car, and this is the Nazi guy riding on the bike. Here, you're riding on the bike right there, okay? I'm the cameraman. So Jim, he would start to guide us through. He would teach me and whoever was in the room how to create a performance. So I gave a shot to Jim where, get a little closer, just because there's a bunch of space there, but there's no space up here. So the camera, I know I'm out of the light, the camera was doing this big wide move and coming around, and then we saw Indy jump onto the biker and punch him out. Go ahead, be gentle. Yeah, okay, and he's like way over here, okay? So, okay, now go back, places one, go to your first mark. So I showed him this shot where it was all the way around here, okay? And I remember this session when he interviewed us, or not interviewed, he was reviewing my work, and he says, okay, Clint, we can't just do a big shot that does everything. Isn't that what it's saying up here? When the great filmmakers cut to a shot, it looks like the only moment that shot was ever good for. That shot was composed for this particular moment, and it is incredibly impactful and framed for this nugget, the perfect shot for that moment. That's a quote from that meeting. And that's what he said. He didn't tell me what to do. And then I said, okay, so, and this is the part I love. He says, okay, Clint, what do you think? And I said, okay, then if what you're saying is this big broad move here it's just kind of doing too much and nothing all at the same time. It's just saying, look at this whole scene. And I said, well then, so maybe when he jumps, maybe when Indy jumps, I should be right here, and then he can open the door and jump at the guy. Go ahead and jump at the guy. No, I'm the cameraman. Okay, and get his face, get his intention, learn what he's thinking, and then I can jump back to this shot over here to finalize the tackle and let the second shot be about the tackle. And so I said that. And Jim said, that's right, try it. Let's see what it looks like. And thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Every session with Jim was like that. And he would, now he's not he wouldn't dance around as much as I do, but he would teach us. And he'd show us why. And then he'd let us invent what we think answers that requirement. And then he'd say, let's try it and see how it works. And I've learned so much. It's the best film school I've ever had. And then I would go back to the team, and luckily they know me and they tolerate me. And I love to do the same thing too, because I've benefited so much from Jim with all these training and filmmaking knowledge. I just love it. So, okay, next. Do you want to tell us how we approach Stuart? getting started on a scene. I'm going to take a drink.
Miko and Aaron, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so we'll see this more in another sequence, but basically, the very first steps of planning exciting sequences out don't look particularly exciting because we're trying to interpret what was originally written and intended by the script writer or the second unit director, or so what we get is kind of a God's eye view or a faraway view of really straightforward blocking. And this is the conversation piece that makes the rest of it happen. Before the camera comes in and we kind of know what we want it to look like, we have to know what the characters are doing to each other. And I did not work on this train sequence exactly, so something's happening here. Is it different every time we see it?
No, it's the same thing.
Okay, yeah. But this is part of the decision-making process that perhaps doesn't make it onto reel so much, deservedly so, but
we previs the previs.
We previs the previs.
We should keep going
keeping
train.
it very abstract.
We need to get through more of train.
And I'm curious to see how that looks with the next slide.
All right, let's go. Should we go to Tuk Tuk?
Sure. Well, unless you want to hit that.
We want to get to Tuk Tuk because I keep talking and I want Stuart to talk more. But
it is amazing when I talk.
But this is one of the scenes that was a challenge. The script piece was up there just a moment ago. The original script was Indy jumps on the gun and blows away a squad of 30 Nazis. And the director said, wait a minute, this is not Indy Jones. That's not an Indy Jones move. He doesn't just wantonly blow people away. Let's adjust this and let's change it. And so we came up, the group, we is the group of the filmmakers, came up with this moment where the Allied planes, let's go to the finals one.
Okay.
The Allied planes are the ones that blew up the thing, and Indy finds himself in a troublesome spot, which ends up helping him in the end. And there was a lot of interesting challenge in figuring out the diameter of the train, like how curved the train track had to be, and still be believable train track. In order to do this, train shoots itself type thing, which was a big deal and a lot of time spent really understanding how it works, how it can't work, how to make it make sense, until we ended up with this. So, boom, boom, boom.
Very cool.
It was a lot of challenges. One of the versions was a grenade. Indy threw a grenade to try to stop the guys from blowing up the Allied planes. And it bogged down. And it wasn't as fun. It was, even though we wanted Indy to be in control and doing things more, it just turned into more fun of him just running into something and going, I'm trapped here, I'm trapped there, and then having it work out in an unexpected way. We liked that, so we went with it.
Hey, who here worked on Tuk Tuks? I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, and the shy ones in the back. Yeah, Tuk Tuks was 3 sequences in one. This is a rough blocking layout. You'll notice that there are cubes in the back. This is when the Tuk Tuk was about twice as big as what it ended up being, which totally changed how people drive. But this stunt comes back over and over. So I want people to keep an eye out for some things. How the person with a knife jumps onto the top of the Tuk Tuk. Who's driving? Who punches the knife guy? What else?
A lot of changes.
There were a lot of changes. And what you're seeing here is kind of a version of what we saw with the train, which is top-down view in location 2. So this is, the reason I said it's 3 sequences in one is we ran the sequence up into cameras, and then found a new location. And here we have a beat sheet. This is from Dan Bradley, right?
Yeah, second unit director, Dan Bradley.
Right. Another, Hollywood legend. He worked on the Bourne movies and things like that, and has directed all kinds of action sequences in movies. And so had a lot of interesting insight and knew what he needed to see that was going to be dynamic and exciting. So
He got to go to India and told us, try it here, try it there, and then we made this.
that's right,
Yeah.
that's right. And here we have a Google Earth view of all the beats that were written out and figuring out in the real world space what is going to fit together. And there's some teleporting involved because of that. And here we are again with the God's eye view, and you can tell that there's just so many moving pieces. How long is the sequence in the movie? It's like,
Too long.
yeah,
I think it's 6 minutes?
not long enough.
It was 2
Yeah.
years, I promise you.
And I know people in here worked on these stunts from car to Tuk Tuk. So here we are in that fort location. So we got a hop and a jump over onto the Tuk Tuk, which is much smaller. Indy does not pull them through. Helena, the actress, is the one that punches the knife guy. And the reason the knife guy is there for Helena to punch him, oh yeah, and here we have the stunt crew.
Animation
really,
guys.
Yeah, really laying out what should be happening from stunt viz point of view. So then our animation team incorporated that to make it more like what it was going to be when they actually shot.
One pause.
Yeah.
Watch this. Sea of Tuk Tuks. Lost in a sea of Tuk Tuks. Anybody thinking baskets? Raiders of the Lost Ark, the baskets. We tried so hard to get it in the movie, but because of what happens next, we lost it. Because of the move.
What's that?
Because of the move.
Oh, right. Yeah, and another thing, the villain was totally different actor in the next one. But COVID, the location that everyone was getting ready to shoot in changed to Morocco. So you will see some beautiful scans of Morocco as it, real streets in Morocco. But that meant every stunt, the blocking of which corner did what and why they turned the corners, changed as well because it's a brand new location. So here's another part of the sequence. This is where a gun comes out and Indy uses his foot to keep it from shooting anybody but the bad guys in the other scene. And the action is basically the same in a totally different location, believe it or not. And we continued refining as time went on. So it was, it felt like years.
Do you want to do the stairs?
Yeah.
You want me to?
Speaking of years, how about the stairs of eternity?
So it was a challenge. One thing, we had the sequence completely done. We were ready to shoot, like Stuart said, but because of a COVID outbreak, India was off the table. And before you move on from that one, transporting all these shots, making sure the relationships to cameras got moved to a new street in Morocco was an interesting challenge. And we did as much as we could. And here's an example of that. So this is the first staircase moment. Just play that one more time. Yeah. The staircase, Jaisalmer Stairs at Fort Jaisalmer in India. And little stairs, we built it out.
That's kind of cute.
And they kind of liked it. They're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, cool. Let's try to keep that when we go to Morocco. So we did. We went to Morocco, the photogrammetry stairs. And I reached out to the group. They sent me a video. They walked down the steps, and you can see here the walls are kind of clunky and kind of greebly and gamey. That's because it's a photogrammetry from a video. What are those called? A GoPro. GoPro somebody had on their head, and they just walked down the stairs. And they gave me that, and I said, hey, does anybody on the team, this is why I love generalists, this is why I'll always call Gnomon, Does anybody know how to do photogrammetry? And Mike Solozano raised his hand and says, I know this software, I forget what it's called. And so I said, go for it, see what you can get. And he was able to get a ton of the city built out. And so that's what we saw there. Now this one is the London landing. So what we saw in the last one is we got to the bottom of the stairs and it was this little tiny alley and it was really weak. So then they decided, let's build this. Let's build a set at Pinewood Studios for the bottom of the stairs. We'll use the top of the stairs, okay? But bottom of the stairs is going to be Pinewood. There it is. That's Morocco, that's Morocco, that's Morocco, that's Morocco, that's Pinewood Studios. Okay, good. Our story can be told. The bad guys can show up behind him and we reunite the bad guys and the good guys to continue the chase after this mad dash down the stairs. Then the next stage, after they filmed all that, this is what we got. So now this is the post-viz phase, after we have plates. This is all Morocco, Morocco. And we decided, you know what, let's put it up above the port. So we put the ocean out there, because this is Tangiers. We want to see the port. And so we put that there, and then we looked at it and they said, yeah, it's not doing everything. And so, of course, ratcheted up the Stairs of Eternity, make it a bigger space, gave it a launching leap. We tripled the length of the stairs. I don't know how much of Morocco is left. You can see that Pinewood is there at the bottom. We sped up the cart, and that's what happens in the process. So one thing you have to do, I learned this very quickly when I started in Previs, you can't fall in love with your work because it will get stomped on, ripped apart, thrown away, and then when your heart's been broken, they're going to call back and say, remember that one we stomped on and ripped out and threw away? Can we bring that back? And they're going to do that 2 months later. And I have a really funny story about that, but I'll have to do it another time. It's not this show. So that's part of the journey of visualization. Now, that's quite different than visual effects. In visual effects, if you're doing that with a team of lighters on a shot, and an animator on a shot, and a modeler on a shot, and a clothing person on a shot, or whatever is needed in the shot, and particles, you're going to spend a lot of cycles. And so they love to do it in Previs, where I can do it, Stuart can do it, and if I can't do it, then Miko can do it. And between the 5 or 11 of us, we can all do it. So how many people does it take to do all this, to go through all these iterations, to make sure we have just enough skills to get by, but not blow the budget up? Well, we have a very smart person who knows these kind of things.
Oh, you want me to quote the stats? He's queuing up the stats.
This is kind of fun. Maybe we'll play this while she reads. Does that work?
Yeah.
There's no sound. Oops, there's sound.
Oh, that's okay. Just to get some numbers just for fun. So let's see. So for Previs and TechViz, there were 2,565 shots. Shot is what we consider like approved through Clint, through all the stages to get to editorial. So that's not the versions that might have happened before that shot. Of the versions, there were 14,327 versions of those shots. So that was basically 5.6 versions per shot that were done for this.
Most of them in Tuk Tuk, I think.
Yeah. Post-Viz, not as many, 1,250 shots, 4,600 versions, so not so bad. Overall total hours on the project for the whole project, 40,000 hours, including production folks.
Visualization.
Visualization for all the things.
The small group in the production
things.
ecosphere.
Total number of artist weeks were 790 artist weeks, and 49 total proofers worked on it. Clint was with the production side, so 50 if we include Clint. Perfect 50. Other fun things I thought, which may not be that fun to you guys, but we'll tell you anyway. The initial Previs bid we did was we were going to have a team 9 to 12 people for 13 weeks. We ended up for Previs 39 weeks, max team size 26 artists at our max, average team size of 11. Basically, we were 3.5 times bigger than the original bid. Post-Viz, the original bid was 9 weeks, 7 to 8 people. We ended up staying on there for 60 weeks, 60. Max team size of 17, 6.7 times bigger than the original bid. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so it was a big team, and we did a lot, and it was a fun, crazy project.
And most of them are here, right?
No, I'm hosting.
Yay!
But
there's more stuff. There's more fun stuff.
yeah,
But
it's interesting. It's playing through everything.
Oh.
I didn't know it could do that.
I didn't know Sweet Ice Cream Weekend.
Jumping gangsters. Let's see.
Yeah, we saw that.
We saw this. And so you'll notice, you may have noticed while we were watching, some of the stunts we saw in the early development made it. Like this guy with the knife, he made it all the way to the top. Those of you that are Chosen fans, you'll notice that's Z. And then this turn around the corner, that happened in India, and we were able to find a street where we were able to do it in Morocco.
Next.
Let's see, was there any others in here you wanted to hit? Oh, this is one of the ones you talked about, the gun, pressing the gun. Oh, no, this is, so you'll notice some of the things that Stuart pointed out, that they changed seats. When we moved to Morocco, we realized in our first version of India, Harrison was driving more than I think we wanted him to, which it only lasts interestingly for so long. And so we decided when we went to Morocco, let's have him be in another Tuk Tuk, and he has to jump to their Tuk Tuk. And that ended up this whole cycle of changing the seating throughout. I must have pushed something.
Yeah. Just jumping
Maybe
in.
this button is held down. No, this button's still broken. Hit the pause button. Huh. No, something's wigging out. Well, where do we want to go?
Yeah, where do you want to be?
That's weird. 'Cause it's,
You want to still be in Tuk Tuk, or you want to move?
is there any more? Let's do this one.
Okay. See what happens.
Okay, so post-viz. So the post-viz phase of the project was year 2, and that's when we take the plates, and we now have to get ready for visual effects and it's kind of a preliminary layout of this is how it's actually going to be performed. Not what it could be, this is what it will be, because now we have the plates. This is where we're headed. And so what you're seeing here is our post-viz, that of course was based on our pre-viz that they ended up shooting. And sometimes problems arise on set and they have to change it, and we then in post-viz adapt and retell the story again in the post-viz phase to adapt to any problems or changes or great ideas that showed up on the day of the shoot. Let's see, oh, there, Miko did the whip, right there. Oh, they didn't get it, sorry. So this is, there's a lot of compositors that come into the play, come into the scene on our teams when this is happening. There's a lot of things that can be done in compositing, and then we have some CG guys, and so our team kind of shifts midway. Our animators, we reduce the amount of animators, we keep some, and we increase the amount of compositors. Modelers are less used because we're not building whole cloth new arenas, and the team shifts. This is the long one.
Is it? Do you want to
Yeah.
go on to the rec dive?
So this scene here is the underwater scene. This was one of the challenging scenes in the movie, in that when it came back from the shoot, they hand all the dailies to the editors, and Mike McCusker was the editor on this film, who actually, incidentally, I'm working with right now. So be friends with lots of people because they call you back. And he called me back and I'm working on a film right now with him, and so it's kind of the team gotten back together again. But he put this all together, and the production, the director, the editor, everybody was worried that it wasn't going to work out, that this sequence was the weakest we had, and they just said, okay, give it to the post-viz team. Let's just see what they come up with and hope they can save this from being a disaster. There was just a lot of fear in that. And we were able to turn it around and do a really, there'll be a video here in a second that we can see a little bit more. This is a scene.
In an airport.
Now we forego the tune shading in the previs phase, as you can see, because we are trying to get closer to VFX. We do want to see what's going to be a problem and what does need to come up in quality, because now there's people on call and in production who can do it. So, but post-viz is a fun phase too. I'm running out of words. So like in this here, we're putting the portal in the sky. It was just blue screen, and we had to figure out, okay, how close are they? How is the search going for the portal that they're trying to find?
The Dial of Destiny. Now we're in Sicily, at least.
The
We have
what?
some Sicily now, if you want to talk about.
There's Sicily. We don't have much other Sicily to look at.
Syracuse.
But... Okay, this shot here. Can you pause it? I'm gonna confess. So this shot, we needed a shot in this scene when the airplane was coming down, and the director said, "Hey Clint, I need a more dramatic shot." And so I made this dramatic shot, and there was a little mix-up, and I sent it to the editor, but I was supposed to send another movie, not this one. This one was supposed to go by visual effects, so we could all look at it and say, can we even afford this? Are we going to be able to do this? Because this is a huge shot. And I accidentally sent the wrong movie. I don't know, Alex, were you on vacation? But I sent the wrong movie. It was my fault.
Probably Taylor.
And, yeah, it was Taylor. And the wrong movie ended up down to editorial, and I get this, Clint, what did you do? You just cost us $300,000.
Can I play?
And I looked at what I had sent, I'm like, oh snap, I sent the wrong movie. I was supposed to check that one, not this one. Anyways, my name was Mud for a good 2 months, and then fortunately I did something else that was able to cut down a whole bunch of shots, and they said, okay, yeah, you're forgiven because you saved us this much here.
But
we can pay for your $300,000 mistake.
You've paid it back by now, right?
Yeah, the house is
Like-
almost out of mortgage.
Yeah.
So that's one of the fun, not so fun in the moments in Indy Jones.
It's almost over.
This
It
is the long one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a good one though, but this is the only time we get to see the airplanes and the boats and the... So one of the things that happened is, because we were working on 6 sequences, the ones that we had at the beginning, there was also another sequence that I'm not allowed to tell you about. And it didn't make the movie, and it was really cool, but it slowed the movie down, and it didn't really accomplish a lot except being cool. And if it's not pushing the story in the movie forward or the characters forward, sometimes you just got to be brutal and say no. And Jim, that was a hard week because we loved it. It was very cool, but it did not move the movie forward, and I'm not allowed to show it. But because I was working on all these 7 sequences, we ended up getting and we had all those people that Patrice told us about. We had multiple teams in multiple rooms going all at the time, and I'm hitting every room all the time, just checking in with everybody, because I'm responsible for my own sequence and the whole show. In terms of visualization. So we ended up sending one sequence, the airplane sequence previs, to ILM. And so then I was working with ILM with them and their team because we were at full capacity and going strong. And so some of that work was ILM, and I want to make sure they get props. I don't have all their names, but they did some of that in this sequence. Cool. With the airplanes and the previs there. And then we came and did all the post-viz at Proof. So. Let's see, we're Rec Dive. So this is EEL Team 6. This is what it looked like before the post-viz. A lot of blue.
Hit the viz button to add viz.
The what?
It says need viz.
And so there was a lot of nothing going on. And so we put in the plants, we put in skeletons. They wanted an Indy Jones style tomb, be it a watery tomb. And so we put in the skeletons and tried to make it a little more interesting of a journey. And one of the fun things, actually this is a fun story, I won't say his last name, but Matt, he's a very talented supervisor at Proof. And he he became available, and I said, bring it on. We got to solve this. And I said, Matt, I need you to figure out how to make this the story is the ship went down, and all the Romans went down with it, protecting the thing. And he came back after I said, okay, just put the skeletons out and make it a tomb. You know, an Indy Jones tomb, moving through and the skeletons fall over and stuff like that. And he came back with this awesome movie, all of his own, he said, and he pitched it. As she's looking around with the flashlight, he says, okay, so what happened is, this guy, he was leading the rebels. And he was trying to get to the box. And these guys were defending. And so see why this guy, he's reaching and pointing towards the box in his death forever. And then these guys are going, no, no, no. And they're blocking the way. And so this is the story. He's telling me all this. And I said, wow, this sounds like Indy Jones 6 right here. Can we just have the guys be there pointing and standing in the way? He's like, but we need the spear. And he was very excited. And it was fun. But he did a great job, and he had this great story as to why the skeletons were where they were placed, because of what he imagined happened as the ship went down, and these guys tried to get whatever the treasure gobbledygook was from these guys, and then they all died and suffered an ignominious death. Okay, so this is the Fiona, our hero animator of the film, except for Craig. Craig is amazing too, but Fiona is doubly amazing. And so Fiona did these skeletons. That's what was shot. That's what was post-vizzed by Fiona. And then this was the final. And so it was fun to take what they had shot and then just, what can we do to boost it? And we gave it to Fiona and said, hey, what can we do? What do you want to try? And she'd say, well, could we try maybe making his head fall off? And we said, yes, Fiona, do it. It'll be great. She's the best. She's the most amazing, quiet, wonderful woman we've ever had in the show. Anyway, she's a great animator. Okay. So this here, what else do we do in visualization? At the end of the project, things were ramping down. Everything was moving to visual effects. This was a scene that the in-house visual effects team, of which I was not a part, but I got the opportunity to help with. I started building out models for the in-house visual effects team because I was still on the show. Proof had started to mostly fade away. There was a couple of them still there helping me track some of these shots. And I built out, this was Francesco, who led the in-house team, an amazing compositor. And he had such a good plan on how to get the light to rise to dawn over the course of this whole sequence. And that was the footage he showed to Jim to get approval. Then I built this right. No, that's Borat. Yeah, well, I don't know why he was in our movie. So I built this and then projected the photos on it and did some painting so that we could then put the backgrounds and fill it in like that. See that? I didn't do the face guy, but I did all that background stuff, and I thought, wow, I've graduated. I'm not just a clunky Previs artist anymore. I'm a finaler. Yay! And but that was another way that using the skills that I gained at Gnomon in modeling and texturing and animating, I was able to do that and help the production without having to hire somebody else out. And I did it in-house, and we handed it off and finalized the shots right there in the office. So,
What was this? What's this one?
you want to watch this? I'm running out of good stories, but
I think we're pretty close on time, right?
Yeah, we have
pretty close. So that guy
15
that just got shot was Mario. Or no, it was Mario. The guy in the airplane was Luigi. And we kind of ruffled the feathers of the director when we put him in green and red and blue. And then finally he was watching. He's like, wait a minute, Clint! Did you get that out of here? Because we had the bright colors and everything like that. But he tolerates me.
The last few things are all the jokes, I think.
What?
All the jokes are coming up at the end.
Yeah,
That's sort of the next one.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the liquor bottle?
Let's go to the airplane chasing part. That's good. This is all talking.
This in here?
There you go. Let's go there. Did you work on this scene?
Who supervised this amazing sequence? Oh, it was me.
Now, and funny enough, this scene, we didn't have to change locations. We didn't have to rework it. It just kept working, one thing after another, and we kept finding very interesting things. We still had some alternates to make it even cooler and better, but this scene worked so well, from previs to shoot to post-viz to final. It just flowed right on through. And it's nice to get a sequence like that every so often, compared to what usually is going on, where the unexpected hits you. Ooh, good thing it didn't hit her.
And a lot of folks here worked on this one as well.
Now this beat here was another moment where Jim said, you know what, it's just a little too silly, let's cut it back. Plus time was a thing, so we were just pulling back. Motorcycle there, that's a callback to the motorcycle and the train at the beginning. Oh, that's the stuff I love. I could talk for hours on like callbacks and why we chose a shot and why the angles are decided. Now here's something actually that I did want to share. One of the other things that Jim has taught me for years, he's drilled it into my head, and you can just keep it playing, is he wants us to tell the story. So if any of you are telling stories in your work, he said, it's see, spot, run. Nouns and verbs. That is how you tell a story. That's it. See, spot, run. Spot sees stick. Spot bites stick. Each of those is a different shot. And you need to make sure, if we think back to that quote from earlier, that for that idea of see, spot, run, that this is the best angle to see, spot, run. It's the one that says running the best. Not just running and stick and pick it up and another dog sees it, but this is the best angle to tell that. And then move on to something else that tells the next idea the best way it can. So he's always asking me, Clint, what's this shot about? Why is this in my movie? If you don't have an answer, get it out of my movie. Well, this is the relationship between Teddy and the airplane, so we know how far away. Okay, good. This is her struggling and being set back. Okay, good. This is her seeing an opportunity for an easier road. And he would quiz me and challenge me. And I often was very embarrassed and just said, oh, I don't know. And, but that's how I learned a ton of stuff over the years, over the last 5 movies, and hopefully 6 and 7 and 8 until we're all as old as Indy.
Liquor bottle?
Okay, so so Jim, he runs a good team, and so there was one time early in the production, and he said, okay, this is Luigi back here. You're gonna have to pause it for a second, because I gotta do this setup,
okay.
And then we'll. So he came to me and he said, they forgot that this guy was supposed to be in the airplane, and they came back with all the footage, and I don't remember the details of it. They shot some of it, but they don't remember why he was there. They never shot anything of the guy getting in the plane, or he just was suddenly there. He said, okay, Clint, I need you to put, like maybe he was in the plane drinking and he passed out, and that's when the kid took off and left, okay? He said, just do something with a little bottle and have him pull it towards him, and he's unconscious. So we know he was in there drinking and he lost track of time, and then that's why he was here. So he said, yeah, give him a liquor bottle. So I did it. Mike Solozano did that for me, and actually I did a couple of them myself, I think. And every time Jim came back, he's like, this isn't a Disney movie. I'm like, well, yeah, it's alcohol. But, and he says, no, this isn't, you're doing like Little Mermaid. He's all over the place grabbing it, and he thought this was way over the top. And I disagree. I think it was very subtle, but we made it more restrained, and it became, for a year, he said, don't liquor bottle this shot, Clint. And it started getting, I heard it from a stunt guy to the VFX team where Jim he's like, don't liquor bottle this thing, okay? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, Jim, what have you done to me? So this was the last shot I gave him on the last day of the movie. Since he made me a meme in the production, I gave him the liquor bottle, and I said, Jim, thank you very much for letting me be on the show and be a part of this adventure. I'll be back for the next one. Here's your last shot. I'm giving you the liquor bottle. So sometimes I overdo it. I hope I didn't overdo it tonight, but we'll be excited for questions. And thank you for letting us share a little bit about our adventure. Oh, we have to go to the thing.
Oh, there's a QR code.
Oh, the
I'm going to
QR
QR code you.
Wherever that is.
Is it this one? Bangarang.
Check. Man, we did it, y'all. We made it happen. Thank you all so much again. Another round of applause. Can we get that sweet QR code up on the screen so everyone can scan it to ask their
What? Is it not showing?
questions? I think I'm asking my guy.
Might be them.
You know what? It might be this is still open. I think
Oh, actually, I think it's 2 screens.
Huh?
See down there? Maybe put it over there.
Do you have to drag it over? Sorry.
Is it that way? There it is. Ha ha ha! We did it, y'all.
There you go.
Oh.
Look at how amazing we are. So you can get your phones out. You can go ahead and
Okay,
scan
sorry
that
about
sweet QR code and ask your questions there. To start, actually, we had a couple of questions from online, so we'll start with some of those while you here populate your questions inside. So we have a question from Will. I'm not sure if you all know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it anyways. In the trailer, there's a puzzle involving a giant boulder that didn't make the final cut. Oh, okay, Clint, you know something about this. They were curious about that. So anything that you know about this? It was a very specific question. So
I just know it didn't make the final cut. There was a number of things in that area that was one of the areas where I mentioned there was some adjustments, and we just found some things didn't move it forward. And I don't remember the specifics of why that one changed, but anytime you yank out one Jenga block, there's a couple others that go with it that then you have to fill it in, and things have to change. Now that may be because of creative, maybe because of budget, it may be because we're running out of time, or in that one, I don't know. I just remember seeing that myself and saying, oh, we lost it, darn. And that was the end of my story for that.
well, I mean, at least you had something. I had no idea. I was reading. I'm like, what the heck? This is a super fan. So we have another question from Alexander, also from online, on what advice you would give students trying to break into Previs right now. And then Steve Kersley. Any Steve in here? Okay, see, so this is how it's gonna work, y'all. I got Steve. I'm gonna give him the mic so he'll be able to ask their question, and then if you put it in here, I'll be able to connect with you as well. Not in my phone, on that. Please, thanks. So the question again was, what advice you would give to students trying to break into Previs right now? Right now.
Patience. Learning everything in Previs. Don't just learn the buttons. I think I mentioned it earlier, is you need to learn why to make decisions. You need to learn why you're putting the camera somewhere, why the character does something or doesn't do something. You can't get lost in it. You still have to learn the buttons. You still have to learn the tools. But the more tools you know, like I said, the one guy, Mike Solorzano, he just knew the photogrammetry. So boom, we were able to provide that for production because he had studied and was confident enough, and that's the key, be confident enough. Don't wait until you're confident. You'll never get there. Just be confident enough. You'll learn along your way, and then you'll excel, then you'll succeed and you'll be proud, and then you'll start excelling by keep going. Learn as much as you can, but don't expect yourself to know everything. You don't have to. He knows what you don't know, and she knows what he doesn't know. And as a team, that's what Patrice does, is she puts together all those skill sets. Particular right now, be patient. The industry's shifting and changing, and we're all waiting to see what's going on. Be patient. Don't give up hope, but be practical and hopeful. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just, feel free to reach out and check, like on LinkedIn or whatever. You can connect with myself or Alex Johnson on the proof side. We're always interested in meeting new artists. We don't necessarily have anything right this moment, but you never know when we're going to have things come up. So we always like new young talent. I think both Clint and Stuart have always been great at bringing on interns and working with talent just out of school. We really like the enthusiasm and the energy, and you also come with new ideas and new technologies that you've been playing with, and I think that kind of keeps all of us that have been doing this for a few years, keep us excited too, because you come with a lot of fun energy that we like.
Yeah, just do something on your own. School assignments won't be enough. Show me shot work. Show me your thinking between cuts. That will always impress me. Well, if you do a good job.
Take a scene from a movie that you like and shoot it a different way. That you
Show me what you can do. What I don't want to see tests. Like, oh, here's where I did a particle cannon. Okay, and here's where I did a putting the bottle on the table. No, tell me a story. Tell me beginning, middle, end. Tell me something, even if it's just a 3-shot story. Grab me somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, you had talked earlier about your pipeline between Maya and Unreal, and I was just wondering if you could talk about your current pipeline, whether you do everything in Unreal or you're still doing things in Maya and then shipping everything to Unreal.
Why don't you start?
It's still like the Maya to Unreal pipeline. I think we do more and more in Unreal, but it's still a lot of stuff. It's still built in Maya a lot of times. I think the environments and stuff, I'm not the artist on the box, so, but the environments and stuff, we can build a lot of that in Unreal. A lot of stuff you can get for free, a lot of cool stuff that it does, but we still do the animation in Maya and bring it in.
And I believe, so I'm at Amazon Studios right now, Amazon MGM, ever since Indy Jones wrapped, and I'm the visualization supervisor for Amazon. And but we're not doing production. I'm alone, and I'm helping guide filmmakers into the virtual production stages, where we're filming on the virtual production stage. So I am just working in Unreal. I will use Maya occasionally to build certain things, but I'm also not producing all of these shots. We are now, I'm helping a production right now, an Amazon production, and we are using a pipeline that is Maya to Unreal, because we have a lot of people, we have to get through a lot of shots. It's not just Clint on a box being lazy and not able to program his own. I'm lazy and I don't want to keep exporting FBXs from Maya to Unreal. I get lost in my head, it confuses me. I need a tool that'll do it. I don't know how to code that. So I'm working in Unreal right now. But on a production level, if I was going to do this again, and in the project I'm helping guide right now, it's Maya to Unreal. And they have the tool, like Proof has the tools. And during the Indy Jones project, we kind of helped Proof drive that. So that they had a loose pipeline for Indy Jones within the first 3 to 4 months. I just said, no, it's got to be this, and they got it. And we were moving like clockwork. And so now they have a pipeline that they use all over now. So I still recommend Maya to Unreal. Maya still has tools that are faster. There's more artists who are confident there and know how to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished more than Unreal. Miko, you can talk to Miko afterwards. I tortured him for the first 4 months. I made him animate exclusively character animation in Unreal. Ask him how that was after the close. It was rough, and it's okay. Whatever he says, believe him. Is that helpful to you? Do you have any other specific questions about that pipeline?
Yeah. So what we're considering right now is the ease. Yeah. What we're considering right now is the ease of Maya, like exactly what you're saying. But there's so much functionality in Unreal right now, and as a production, and especially in digital metahumans where we're at. So the real question is like do we rig everything in Unreal and animate it in Unreal, and it seems like a very torturous kind of thing for animators. So I think it's probably better to go to Maya and just pull everything out, because we can still do that, right?
Yeah, and that's where I still lean, even though I'm still bullish on Unreal, but it's still got a long ways to go to match the speed I can go in Maya. I've been using Maya and animating in Maya for at least 5 years.
At least.
For quite a while, and I'm fast, and I'm able to do it, and I'm not even the best one out there. Unreal, there's certain aspects that are slower, but then there's so many tempting, beautiful elements of Unreal that's how That's how I learned so much on Indy Jones, because I thought, maybe we're there. And we tried it. We weren't there. The only reason that worked out is I had a close relationship with the director and many people, and they said, Clint, gotta pull this together. If this was another situation, you'd be gone, buddy. Fix it. And so we fixed it, and Proof helped us fix it. Yeah. We're rendering in Unreal, we're outputting in Unreal, finaling in Unreal, and outputting there. Sometimes we'll maybe take a camera and adjust it there, but even that can cause some problems in just tracking your assets. So yeah, it's still Maya to build, Unreal to render, and visual effects. Because you're never gonna get the visual effects from Maya. You'll go through a whole comp process. Unreal, all your sparks, all your smoke, all your fire, your lights, do it there. All you need it in Maya for is just light direction so that you're framing for the shadows you want, but you're gonna get the real shadow over in Unreal. Just like Jim said, Jim Mangold, let each shot do its job, and that's it. Let Maya do its job, let the tools that transfer it do their job, let Unreal do its job that it does best, and that's gonna give you the best results, is what I still see.
Awesome. So do we have Andrew here with us? Andrew, hey.
Andrew! He wouldn't join the Indy Jones team.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to see those extreme wide shots. I think you call it the God's view or the Previs of the Previs that establish those spatial relationships. I'm curious, how do you know when to cheat those relationships as opposed to staying fully faithful to true 3D space and what's practically plausible and all that?
I always start from a position of reality, but let go of it very quickly. Because the only thing that matters in the end is the composition and the story. Was it effective? In that example that I acted out with Miko and Aaron, there's a shot right after that. And I really wanted to find the specific shot for you, and I couldn't find it in time with all that's going on and starting a whole new show. But there's a moment in that same conversation that I referred to, whoops, the line. That same conversation I referred to where Jim said, the camera was heading towards a mountain, but it was really far away, and he said, just drive that camera right into the mountain. This is a digital camera, forget reality. And it made it way better. And so the first place is know where you are for reality, and then say, how can I nudge this and push this? And I like to think about that as, I'm not breaking reality. I might be breaking physics, but I'm recreating the reality of how it felt to the character and how I want it to feel for you. I want you to feel like that thing is gonna hit you in the face. So I'm gonna hit you in the face with it, and that's what's gonna make you feel it. Now that breaks the rules. It's not realistic. I had to cheat my camera over here. I had to go 75 miles an hour instead of 20, which is what they were actually doing. But hey, if it's cool and it made you say, yeah, then we win. And so I start in reality, but I break it soon, and I remind people, hey, we're this far off, we're this far off, we're this far off. Shut up, I don't care. Okay, just making sure you bought it and I didn't. You're owning it. And I had that experience with J.J. Abrams. He wanted a certain thing to go at a certain speed. He wanted a space station that spun. He wanted it real. He wanted it to spin at the exact speed it would need to spin so that gravity would be created. And I was like, are you sure about that? And he's like, nope, this is what I want, real. Okay, got it, I'll do it. It's gonna be great, I love it. I did it, I did all the math, it took me like 3 days. I did it, and he's like, why is it spinning like a crazy thing? And I said, well, that is the mathematical requirements. I have a rocket scientist who's a friend. He puts rockets on Mars. And I went to him, and he talked me through what I had to do, and I put it in the animation. And he said, and then J.J. Abrams said, like, okay, fine, slow it down. We want majestic.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Gustavo. You in the room with us? Hey, how's it going? Hi. Here you are.
So my question is for you, Clint. You used to work at Walt Disney Imagineering.
Yes.
And you're there. Were you there as a Previs artist? And if so, how does Previs differ in themed entertainment than it does for live action movies?
Good question. It was a big difference. I'm used to working in shots. I'm used to cheating between cuts, like we've just been talking about. And suddenly, some of my WDI colleagues are the ones I've been calling out because I wooed him away from WDI for this film, and then he went back. But it is different because you have to respect reality. When it comes to the experience, I worked on the Millennium Falcon ride and the Star Wars hotel. And people are people, and you're not going to get them to run at a wall at 70 miles an hour. That's not going to happen. So now that you're constrained by architectural requirements and people that don't cut, all they do is blink and turn their head, and they can experience it all. How do I make the experience good for them now? And that was a very interesting challenge. Going from Ford versus Ferrari to Millennium Falcon, like, okay, we can't cut. We got to travel the distance. In movies, it's so easy to cut and just say, this is a long street. This is so boring. Let's just have him turn on the street and then get to the end. Good, done, move on, get to the interesting stuff. There's a lot of architectural concerns. That always bogged me down and frustrated me because suddenly they said you have to change your animation because the emergency code says the doorway has to open here, and now the screen has to cut and be shrinked, and that means your TIE fighter needs to be over here. And I said, but that means like these people over here won't be able to see it. And that's some of the differences of a physical environment and dealing with uncontrolled points of view. Like every one of you is seeing a different performance tonight, except you people on the camera. You're seeing the same thing. But each of you are from a different perspective. And so you spend a lot of time in Previs. I directed a ride, and I had to go to every seat in the ride. I built the theater, and I went to every seat, and I put a VR headset on in every seat to see what I was seeing on the screen for this ride, which is being taken down. It's a Mass Effect ride. And make sure it's a good show for as many people as I possibly can. That's totally different than this one very restricted view. So some interesting challenges. Is that something you're eager to get into?
No, I want to get into Previs in general, but I've always had a soft spot for theme parks. It was where I first fell in love with the entertainment industry as a whole. So I'd love to get into that.
Yeah, well, you should talk to a couple of these fellows over here in the third row. All right, afterwards.
Nice networking at Gnomon. We love to see it. We also have a pretty good question from Jason. Is Jason here? That means that they are online. So Jason asks from our stream, usually get what is the best piece of advice you ever got in your careers, but Jason's curious about the worst piece of advice you got in your career. I guess.
The worst piece of advice. What do we got?
I don't know if I have a worse piece of advice.
Well, why don't you have a worse piece of advice? Why don't we spring off that? Is it because you can always learn, or why do you think that you don't have?
Maybe because nothing was horrendous enough. I mean, maybe little bits of bad advice, but nothing that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, yeah, when you talk about the reason why you probably don't remember or
Let's
get.
talk about it.
I mean, I'm sure there's like some bad advice that has happened, and but I don't know.
I remember one. Do
Okay.
you have one?
No, go for it.
I was at SIGGRAPH. I was a student volunteer at SIGGRAPH in some year, I don't remember. And I was sitting next to a woman who was in visual effects. I think she was at Sony. And she said to me, she said, oh, you're a student. Yeah, I want to be an animator. Well, don't plan on having a family. It's not going to work for you. Don't have a family. That was the worst piece of advice I ever got. And luckily, I didn't follow it because my family is what makes it all worth it and makes any of it worthwhile. And while I do get to play and have fun while I'm at work, I wouldn't trade it for not having my family to help back me up and let me do this and try to do cool things and fun things for people. Otherwise, I think I'd just be lonely and sad. So, I don't know. That was the worst piece of advice I can remember.
And sweet, too.
Yeah, that's a pretty great answer. We have a question from Ryan Chu. Is Ryan Chu? Hey.
We didn't say,
Ryan Chu?
okay.
Okay.
Good advice. We didn't give any good advice example.
All right, I'm sorry.
We didn't give any good advice example.
Oh, yeah, we didn't give good advice. What's the question?
Oh, hi. Well, now that I've been sitting on it for a little bit, I think I realize it's kind of a silly question, but
The class for sculpting was down there.
No
Just
silly
kidding,
questions.
So, in creating the viz for specifically the opening train sequence, obviously like one of the major effects in that sequence is the de-aging of Harrison Ford. And I guess my question was that effect at all brought into consideration when vizzing out that sequence?
When what?
When just making shots for that sequence, like in Previs?
Not
Not
really.
supposed- Yeah, we weren't really involved in any of that
Yeah,
side of it.
Yeah, that all, I mean, we built a model of a young Harrison Ford, and wait, who built that? Was Stefano Abad. He built that for us. Amazing modeler, and as good as Lewis. He built that, and we just built a young model. Somebody else at ILM did that whole thing, and wasn't really involved, but it was fascinating to see it come through. But it didn't really affect what we were doing. No.
All right, so we're going from Ryan Chu to Ryan number 2.
All right, so my question is regarding the overall franchise, I guess. For a film like the first Raiders, which prided itself in being shot really quick and dirty and relatively cheap, what do you make of how much more involved and expensive this film was? And do you think there's room for an idea as grand as this movie to work within a smaller budget in this day and age? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to answer.
There's definitely room for something as exciting and dynamic and sort of fantastical on low budgets, shot on someone's phone next week. Yeah, definitely. Whether it's part of this particular franchise, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, yes.
I think we fell in love with Indy when he was in Raiders, right? And so what that suggests to me is that it's the character and what you feel along the way. And there's some great films that have lots of money, and there's some great films that don't have lots of money. And there's some lousy films that have lots of money, and there's some lousy films that, you know, I forgot
Have
where
no
I was
money.
on that chain.
Have no money.
But you know, I think it comes to, are you focusing on the character and what you want your audience to feel? Is this, I think we...
It's
as
story.
an-
At the end of the day, it's story.
It's the story and the characters and how the audience feels. If we hide behind the visual effects, which are important, and it does create safer environments, it gives us opportunity to do things we couldn't do in reality. And sometimes we want to see those things, but maybe there's a middle ground. And that's one of the things I'm trying to get ready for as it seems like the world adjusts. The budgets can't keep going up. And
Maybe you just spend a lot of money on a really good hat.
That's always the secret, I think, to
But it was a different day and age. There was not as many limitations or requirements or restrictions, and it was a different era. There's a lot of things you couldn't do, you could do then that if you did now, you're going to have some problems.
I think Spielberg even storyboarded one of the sequences in the movie would just
Yeah, he, on Crystal Skull, he would just come in and he just like, okay, let's just like this. And it was the best stick figure I've ever seen. But it was enough to get the point across. Again, is it getting the point across? And then we would animate it and he'd say, yeah, that works in our space. And his little, not Ridley Graham's, that was Ridley Scott, but the Spielberg sketches, those were great. And he did that all the time. Hope that
So
answers your question.
We have another question from, I apologize if I get this wrong, but I think it's Matthew Munoz? Matthew Munoz, okay. Is that you? Oh, here you go.
All right, so I was thinking with my question, you were talking about pre-visualization, and a lot of times when, how much time would you say it takes to pre-visualize a scene in terms of from concept to finish to how long the scene actually takes in the movie, if that makes sense?
The ratio of time prepping between time watching?
Yes.
Well,
That's on a productivity chart we have. Alex, do you know? Got your phone out? Get your Google Drive open?
Well, I mean, we spent 2 years working on Indy Jones and 2 hours watching it, and that was hundreds and hundreds of people doing all that work. Our previs amounted to...
I think, wasn't it over 2 hours, Alex, for the previs?
For the 2 hours
of 2 hours of footage.
Of previs content. So yeah, we created...
That didn't make it, obviously.
That didn't make it. Even the stuff that did make it and did influence the shots directly, I think we were probably around 40 minutes or something like that, or 45 minutes, but in the of content. But it took us 2 years to do all that. I don't know the exact ratio, but that's an interesting thing to look at. Our shot requirement, like I expect an artist, average in generally speaking, to produce 2.5 to 3 shots a day, depending on their complexity, and there's all sorts of gives and takes. But if I do the math, and I have done the math, over a week or 2 weeks or a month, I think each artist should be producing 2 to 3 shots a day. 2 to 3 shots. Most shots are anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. 5 seconds is a fairly long shot. Sometimes there's 10-second shots, but there's also 12 frame shots, and it all averages out to about 3 to 5 seconds per shot. And so let's see, 4 seconds, 4 times 3, 12.
Well,
hey, so 12 seconds out of 1 day of work.
When I bid for previs, it's sort of like a complexity shot might be saying 8 seconds a week per artist, animator week kind of thing. So it could be anywhere from 8 seconds to 16 seconds, depending on complexity per week. So however many shots that ends up.
It's a lot of work. So go to the movies.
There's one right there. Let's movie theater.
In that same vein, when you're prevising, is it one-to-one for, like, if you're prevising 15 seconds, the actual film, the final, is 15-second shot? Is it straight one-to-one like that?
Meaning, is the previs, the length of the previs shot match the final output?
Correct.
Do you want to take that? Or?
I mean, I'm imagining there's a lot of cutting and editing of sequences that comes into it. So I don't know if I have an idea of what the question is.
I mean, generally I'd say no. They're not a direct relationship. They're pretty close. But when you get reality going, when you can see the pores in people's skin and the tweaks and the twerks of their face, there's so much complexity and beauty in reality that is so difficult to create in previs. It makes things more interesting, and you can watch them longer. So in previs, you can kind of like, okay, I got the idea. Remember the whole thing with the cartoon shade?
And you have dialogue.
You forgive a lot. Your brain fills it in. What was that?
You have dialogue as well.
Yeah, and then there's dialogue, and there's listening for the pacing. So I would say previs probably expands, ultimately. In fact, the editor I'm talking with, he was calling that out a few days ago, talking about our journey together as he and I cut. Like, well, I didn't cut the films, but I would do the original previs cut and hand it off to him. And as he learned how to deal with previs, because the first few movies we did together, suddenly they had a problem, and the movie got super long because they didn't realize the previs is a abbreviation, and reality will fill the space even more so. And now we gauge previs with that in mind, and we've kind of got a rhythm, which is why we like to keep working together. So that's actually a really interesting question that whoever asked that. I would say no, I don't think it's one-to-one in the performance arenas. There's probably a few places it is one-to-one, but generally it's close.
All right, so we got 2 more for you. We got one from Justin Smith. Hey, all right. Oh, I got both of the hats. Look at me.
I know, best hat in the room.
Hello. Okay. You mentioned ILM earlier. How much did they work on the film versus how much you worked on the film, and did you collaborate directly with anyone from ILM?
I mean, ILM did a ton of work. In terms of previs, they did one sequence. It was the airplane sequence at the end in ancient Greece. And they spun up a team to do that previs because we were so overloaded in the proofosphere. And then they got busy with producing finals for the film, because they did a ton of the finals. They did so much. And I did work directly with them. I was in a lot of meetings with them. Some of the people in those meetings were even folks I worked with on the Millennium Falcon ride over at Imagineering a few years prior. And
the VFX soup was from ILM,
what's
right?
that?
Wasn't the VFX soup from ILM?
Yeah, the VFX soup for the film. He was a direct hire from ILM. He was, but he ran the VFX for the film. Andrew Whitehouse from London, and he was brilliant. So I worked with him.
Whitehurst.
Whitehurst. Yes. I worked a lot with the ILM folks. Generally, though, it was the Previs group of Proof, and then I would interact with the editor and the director. I would interact with the VFX group, and then occasionally with the team that was doing the Previs at ILM until they wrapped up, and then I took over. But then later on, I started handing all of my files and packaging those up and handing them off to ILM so that they could start the visual effects on them. And then once again, we were back talking to each other regularly because I don't want them to start from scratch. I learned a lot of things the hard way. I got yelled at and picked on and liquor bottled. And I didn't want them to have to endure that if we already knew the answers. And so I would talk them through the shots so they could understand, here's why we ended up here. Don't go down this road. It's the natural thing to do, but this is why we're not going to do it. So I would talk with their supervisors to help guide them through the deliveries I would give them so that hopefully everything goes smoother on their side for visual effects. So yeah, did a lot with them and a lot without, but side by side we were all working together and bumping into each other, helping each other a lot.
Awesome. And our last question is Akito. Akito is here. Oh, hey.
Mahito?
Akito.
Akito? 秋と日本のどこから来ましたか？
ああ、そうですね。
日本ちょっと話します。
日本語上手。
もう下手です。
Everybody's good at it.
どうぞ質問をしてください。
All right. So I'm Nakita Miyazaki. I'm just like a cinematography department.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of curious, like when you're on set for like the gambling scene, like the party scene. And you were
the
in,
party scene?
The one where
the hotel with Borat? Okay.
So I'm just curious about like if you have a chance, like, you know, communicate with the cinematography department, and then what are the challenges of, you know, collaborating with them?
It's a good question. On Indy Jones, I didn't get to spend much time on set. I was there for the reshoots later on, but I didn't get to be on set. I have before. Cinematography, one of the things we learned early on, I worked with Faden Papamichael, who did do Indy Jones. I worked with him on a number of the Jim Mangold films because he goes with Jim. He's part of Jim's little group. And what we found is the decisions that the cinematographer wants to explore slow down the exploration of shot design. Now, because there's a lot of lighting going on and really sculpting the lighting. Whereas the first thing to do is, where are they even standing? And if we spend, on night and day, we spent a lot of time getting the sunset and all important things. It was just at the wrong time. But this was so early in the Previs era that we were all kind of figuring out, okay, well, let's do it. Let's help them. And we learned through that film, yeah, this isn't the right time to explore that. The time to explore that is when we know this is where we want to film it. This is how we want the actor to perform and where we want him to go. So I haven't had the chance to work a lot with cinematographers. I did work with Hoyten van Hoytema, and that was kind of interesting. I actually got to do more with him because we were trying to do the scope of the planets on Ad Astra, and he just came in with the director and would pipe in every so often. And that was good because then I was incorporating his input and feedback, but not doing a work session with him to get the lighting just right on the previs, which that's not what the previs is for. The previs isn't to find the lighting. If there's an important story point for lighting, then yeah, I'd say, hey, can you ask Faden if this is going to work, you know, or the cinematographer, does this work? That said, I just finished a TV show, I think I'm not allowed to say, but I just finished a TV show, and I was working with not the cinematographer, I was the director of photography, the DP. I was working with the DP to help him figure out where to place the lights. And so I was doing all the tech viz last month and the month before and the month before that. for this show.
Yeah, it
And
just depends on the show, yeah.
It depends on the show.
And the team.
But we were in a technical phase. We weren't doing creative exploration. We were deciding how are we going to configure our Amazon virtual production stage, which panels are we going to pull out so that they can get all the shots in the minimal number of setups. And so I worked with him to build that out. So I guess the answer is yes. Sometimes. Arigato. いい質問でした.
All right, give it up one more time for our amazing presenters. Thank you all so much for coming by. We hope to see you again, right?
I hope so. I love Gnomon. Gnomon is where got me here. So I'm grateful for Gnomon and everything, and I'm grateful for them. And thanks for putting up with me and my energy. But I love what I do, and I get to do cool stuff, and I love to share it, and I want you guys to have cool experiences and
we like
have a blast living life.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us here, and thank you for joining us at home. If you're curious about what Gnomon can do for you, go ahead and hit us up at gnomon.edu. You can also contact us on all of our socials, gnomon_school, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you all so much. See ya, bye. Johnny.